Is that flattering?
So, Prashant, when are we planning to start?
In another
Mohammed,
in another 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
yo,
Yeah, Dr.
after all
Novia
this,
Hmm?
is getting little freshen up because she had just had a flight. And also our one of our media speakers is about to join.
No, no,
So
that
after
is
his,
okay. But no,
yeah,
the Novia will take exactly how long?
5 minutes maximum, I guess. Let me
So,
ask
I
him.
think, yeah, I'll ask. And then I think we should start and then
Okay,
maybe engage with videos. We already
sure.
have two videos before her. We can spend some time on the call for applications, but
Yeah,
ask her first if she'll be available after 5 minutes. Because if
sure.
they keep waiting in the lobby, they might just stop. They will might just start to drop out.
Yeah. Manoj, hello. Manoj?
Yeah, hi. Hi.
Yeah, I guess we should start and
Yeah, I'll go live.
let's
Yeah.
not wait.
So,
Yes,
I'm
please let me know.
going live right
Yeah.
now.
Prashant, I
Yeah.
think we should start now. What
Yeah,
is
we are
Dr.
starting.
Novia saying? Uh,
Dr. Dr. Novia is actually not
once
picking up the
we,
call.
oh
Yeah.
God, once we, if we, she's, I think she will be there by then. If at
Yeah.
all she's not there, we'll start with the second speaker.
Yeah, I
Uh,
messaged you
but,
already. Yeah.
hmm, but you messaged me. Okay, sorry. Okay, now when you welcome everybody, just say we'll wait for 2-3 minutes for everybody to join in, because we can see a lot of you are trying to join in and trying to get into the session. So we'll give you 2 to 3 minutes. So welcome everybody. Just keep welcoming for 2-3 minutes, okay?
Okay.
But
Mr.
please
Achike
let's start.
has Mr. Achike has also joined. Can we just quickly go through him also?
No.
Yeah.
It's very late.
Good
It's
morning.
very late. Please understand, those who are in the waiting room, they will start dropping out.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
people
got
They
have
it.
been
will think
messaging
that it's
already.
not, yeah. So just, we don't usually delay it. So please start.
Yeah.
Let's get started. I'm starting the webinar, guys.
Hmm. Are we going live?
Yes, going live right now.
Okay.
Welcome everyone. We are starting our session in another 2-3 minutes. So we are hopeful that people are joining. So please wait just for 2-3 minutes and then we will start our session.
Okay, so we're good.
Welcome everyone who has just joined. I'm Prashant and we are just starting in another 2-3 minutes. I request you to please just wait for 2 minutes and we are starting soon. We are just waiting for everybody to join. There are so many
Okay.
registrations and there are so many participants who are going to join us. Just wait for 2-3 minutes. We are soon going to start.
All right, that's okay.
Hello, everyone. We are soon going to start. We are just waiting for the participants to join in. Please wait for 2 minutes. We are soon starting. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers, and esteemed participants joining us from Liberia, Nigeria, Ghana, and Sierra Leone. On behalf of Merck Foundation, I warmly welcome you to this important online health media training held in partnership with Her Excellency Mrs. Katumu Yata Boakai, the First Lady Republic of Liberia, together with Female Journalists Association of Liberia, Her Excellency Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, together with Nigeria Union of Journalists, Ghana Journalists Association, and Sierra Leone Association of Journalists. Merck Foundation Health Media Training is a part of Merck Foundation More Than a Mother community awareness program. It is being organized to emphasize the important role that media plays to influence our society to create a cultural shift with the aim to address sensitive and health issues. We would like to begin by showing you a video to give you an idea on what that inspired Merck Foundation establishment and More Than a Mother establishment, and how First Ladies of Africa collaborate with Merck Foundation to support and empower women living with infertility stigma through access to health, information, and change of mindset. I request my teammate to please play the video.
Jacqueline Wende, a 27-year-old young woman from a rural place called Masii in Machakos County, Kenya, tells us her sad story of having both hands chopped off, not by thieves, but by her own husband, for failing to conceive, even though he was the one with a fertility problem.
Mali ndio nilisikia akigonga mlango akiniambia Jackie nifungulie. Niliachana na chakula nilikuwa nakula, nikaamka nikaenda nikamfungulia. Kitambo nimfungulie ndio nikata hii mkono. Nikaanguka hapo chini na akanifuruta nikaenda nikaanguka huko chini. Kitambo nianguka huko chini alikuwa ananikata kichwa na mikono na uso na akanidunga hapa na kisu na hiyo panga alikuwa nayo. Aliponichapa nilimuuliza, kwa nini ngila unanichapa? Utaniua peke yako. Akanyamaza akaniambia, leo ndio siku yako ya kuongea, hautaongea tena maishani.
Merck Foundation came to the aid of Jacqueline through the Merck More Than a Mother campaign. She was provided with a new home and a supermarket to enable her to earn a steady income and become independent. Like Jacqueline, there are many other women that suffer from infertility stigma. Merck Foundation works closely with partners to empower them to be heroines of More Than a Mother movement.
I would like to inform you all about the 8 Merck Foundation Awards, 2 awards for Best Media, and the rest of the 6 for song, film, and fashion designs. Before we call our first speaker, I would like all to watch the promo Our Africa by Merck Foundation TV program. Our Africa is a Pan-African TV program that is conceptualized, produced, directed, and co-hosted by Senator Dr. Asha Kellage. The program features African designers, singers, and prominent experts from various domains with the aim to address and raise awareness on various sensitive and health issues. You can watch Our Africa by Merck Foundation on Merck Foundation's website and our social media channels. I request my teammate to please play the video.
Senator Dr. Asha Kellage and creator of Our Africa TV show.
All Africa will be part of our show.
The CEO of Merck Foundation.
We want to support girls' education. No to infertility stigma, yes to girls' education. We want to stop gender-based violence for stop. Number of child marriage will double by 2050.
Hi, Prashant, you're on mute.
You can watch Our Africa by Merck Foundation on Merck Foundation's website and our social media channels. Now I would like to welcome Dr. Novia Dennis, fertility specialist and director of the Family Health Division at the Ministry of Health, Liberia. She is our Merck Foundation alumni also. She will be speaking today on infertility prevention, the link between infertility and infectious disease, and male infertility. Also, if you have any questions during this talk, you are free to write them in the question and answer section appearing on your screen at the bottom. Over to you, Dr. Novia.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Dr. Kokudolo Dennis. Sorry, I had to join late. Just came off the plane from Cape Town. So I'm in Cape Town now speaking. It has always been a great joy to be able to present to the media on infertility awareness creation. And as the doctor said, I'll be speaking on the topic infertility prevention, the link between infertility and infectious diseases. And also we'll talk a little bit about male infertility. So infertility awareness and prevention, this is again from the Merck Foundation Media Health Media Training Program. Next slide, please. I want to be very conscious of time. Merck Foundation, one thing we always promote is Merck Foundation says you are more than a woman, and then there is a need to break the stigma around infertility in Africa. As you know, most people in sub-Saharan Africa, where I am, we face stigma around infertility, and I think it's because of the lack of awareness. And these are key steps, interventions that we could take in order to create awareness and reduce the stigma surrounding infertility. So I'll be talking about infertility prevention. And again, if I'm speaking very fast, please feel free to intercept. The link between infertility and infectious diseases and male infertility. Together, we can create a cultural shift. Always remember that. Next slide, please. And then we have several hashtags, men, hashtag men too, no to infertility stigma, you are more than a mother, more than a father. And then this is just these are themes that we use in terms of creating awareness for infertility. Next slide, please. So, first of all, we want to say infertility is not a stigma, and that is the overarching message. So, because in Africa, some traditional culture, religious practices are linked with higher level of preventable causes of infertility. Let me define infertility, because this is in the media and some people may not know the definition of infertility. So when we say infertility is the condition wherein a lady failed to get pregnant, and I think I need to break it down, after 12 months of unprotected, untimely sexual intercourse. And depending on the age, when you are up to 35, instead of waiting for the 12 months, which is 1 year, the definition now drops to after 6 years of non-interrupted sexual intercourse. So in Africa, some of the reasons why they have some infertility or high level of infertility is because one, culture, religious practices, and also just the low resources, okay, in terms of resource constrained environment, seeking care, poor nutrition, untreated sexually transmitted diseases, unsafe abortion, which is in Liberia is a leading cause of secondary infertility. So these are all some of the causes: genital female mutilation, exposure to smoking, environmental pollutants. So they are all just combination of all of these factors that are listed down here. Next slide, please. So for us, we say in sub-Saharan Africa. Oh, next, please. You jump. Next. Okay. No. Before. Because what is key is the statistics. Next slide. Okay, so thank you. So in sub-Saharan Africa, infection result to almost 85% is the leading cause, up to 85% of women with infertility. When we check, because as an infertility specialist, most often women who come down with infertility in sub-Saharan Africa have a history of untreated infection or even undiagnosed infection. And this is very high because it's 85% in sub-Saharan Africa compared with 33% the rest of the world. So you can see just from the statistics that leading cause of infertility is infection. And once we can get to cure most of these infection, timely diagnosis, okay, compliance to treatment, most of the incidence or prevalence of infertility will reduce. The next thing is that's what we're saying. So what we need to do first, one of the take-home message here is we need to focus on adequate treatment when it comes to infection. Regular treatment, see the doctor early if you feel that you are unwell. But always remember that you are more than a woman, and you are more than a mother. Next slide, please. Again, if I'm going too fast, it's just I'm bit. So then what we say, Merck Foundation, more than a mother, that is the take-home message. Infertility is not a stigma. So you should know that pelvic inflammatory diseases, which we also talked about previously, is the leading cause of infertility in sub-Saharan Africa. Most people have untreated STIs, the gonorrhea, and the chlamydia. These are these are just few, agents that cause infertility. The reason why some of them cause infertility and most often they are underdiagnosed is because they have very few symptoms. Most people with these underlying infectious diseases, they don't even know. And because of that, they are called the silent infections that can result to pelvic inflammatory disease. So what are the mechanisms, or what is the mechanism through which these agents cause infertility? First of all, it leads to scarring of the tissues. And the tissues that are mostly infected are the ones that line the fallopian tubes. And one thing you should appreciate is that for natural fertility to occur, or pregnancy, to occur, the egg must meet the sperm in the fallopian tube. So once you have a blocked tube, it's impossible for you to naturally conceive. And that is the direct relationship between infection and what? Infertility. Infection leads to scarring of the tube, which leads to blocking of the tube. And then because of that, the egg and the sperm cannot meet. And once the egg and the sperm cannot meet in the tube, infertility definitely is diagnosed. And that is the link between infection and infertility. It all has to do with the scarring of the tube. Next slide, please. And so also another cause is HIV. For us in Liberia, our HIV prevalence rate is very low. So HIV is around 1.2%. Okay, so HIV is not leading cause of infertility in Liberia, unlike infection, the STIs and the pelvic inflammatory diseases. But in some other countries with high prevalence rate for HIV, this might also lead to what? Infertility, because it compromises the immune system, and most often people don't even ovulate. And once you don't ovulate, that is to produce the egg after each menstruation, you will not conceive. So this is the link between the HIV and between HIV and infertility, especially in countries with high prevalence rate of HIV. So one thing is we need to counsel people to prevent HIV. Another common reason is systemic diseases, illness. Illness is like weight loss. We have weight loss, we have stress. And I have a testimony when it comes to stress. I have this patient, and I won't take long, but this is very inspiring. She's Arab Lebanese, and she's just 25 years old. But in her culture, when they get married, and she happens to be one of the teachers of my son's school. And then once they get married, there's this, quest to conceive. And she has been having problems. She was sent to me by one of my patients, who also happened to be of Arab descent. And I've been counseling her. We tried IUI, and it failed. She went into depression because then I didn't know what happened between the IUI and the cycle. So once we completed the IUI, she started experiencing irregular cycle, and then she went into depression. But I was always counseling her. She had to go on antidepressants. She went to the States, she got antidepressant. And then I talked to her. I said, look, there is a direct link between stress and infertility. I said, you see, most of these girls, teenagers that experience unwanted, unplanned pregnancy, they don't go with the intent of getting pregnant. Instead, they go with the intent of what? Just having fun. So by having fun, then they get pregnant. So please, you need to de-stress. And it took almost a year just counseling, persistently just counseling her. And 2 days ago, while in Cape Town, she called me because she hasn't seen her menstruation. It has been irregular. And she said, let me just take the test. And she took the pregnancy test and she was positive because we have been talking. And she promised me, she said, Doc, I'm not going to stress out again because I'm very young. I'm going to take your advice. Just after we have spoken, she called me back after 2 days and said, look, I'm pregnant. I couldn't believe it. She sent me an emotional message to say, I have it on my WhatsApp. I was just reading it. I was tearing up. She said, Doc, you one person who always believed that I would have gotten pregnant. I really want to appreciate you for your counseling and your faith in me, even when I lost faith in myself. So that is a typical story of how stress and infertility are directly linked. Sometimes we don't appreciate it in Africa, but we need to start counseling our patients to de-stress. Other than that, the person might have difficulty and might be diagnosed of infertility when in fact, in reality, they are not even infertile. Okay, so next slide, please. So again, we should not forget, Merck Foundation says a woman is more than a mother. And the take-home message here again is infertility affects men and women equally. That is it. And that is one of the reasons, that is one of the problems we have in Africa. Most time, the men blame the women for being infertile. But again, in reality, once you do the check, you find out that men also, there are growing cases or incidents of infertility among men that we have seen in clinic as a clinician. So we need to also tell the men to practice safe sex. Mind you, the same way pelvic inflammatory diseases block the tube of women from getting pregnant, it's the same way in men when they have inflammatory diseases, it also block their tube or the sperm from getting out. So we need to practice safe sex, both men and women, avoid risky behavior because infertility affects both the men and the women equally. Okay, next slide. Now, for women, a number of strategies may help increase the chances of becoming pregnant. For example, the lady that I just talked about, and she's not the first person, neither the second person. For me, it was not the medication because we tried the medication and it failed. It was just simply counseling against reducing the stress, and that worked for her. Next slide. So let's look at some of the strategies that we use. Now, again, you are more than a mother. Infertility is not a stigma. The first thing we need to do as females is to exercise moderately. Okay, regular exercise is very important. Avoid intense exercise because when you exercise the extreme, now you have to do everything in moderation. If you don't exercise, you get obese, you suffer from infertility. When you exercise at the extreme, okay, and you lose weight beyond a critical threshold, you also suffer from infertility. It interferes with hormonal production, and then people start to experience irregular menstruation. So next slide, please. After exercise, another intervention to improve infertility is what? You should eat a balanced diet and maintain a healthy weight, which is also linked to the first thing about exercise. While we appreciate you eating, exercising, we also encourage people to eat a balanced diet. Eat little of carbohydrates, little of protein, vegetables, and stuff like that. So it should be in what? Balance, so that you can lean on more carbohydrates. Like for us in Liberia, we eat more rice and meat and more oil, which is not a balanced diet. So in counseling people on how to optimize your fertility, one thing is you should exercise in moderation. You should eat a balanced diet, okay, that will encourage healthy weight gain. Next slide, please. And then another thing is to quit smoking. Smoking has multiple negative effects. Besides the effect on the lungs, it also has effect on fertility. And even when you are pregnant, when you happen to get pregnant while smoking, there is also effect on the unborn child. So one thing we encourage people to do is, if you are smoking, stop smoking. It's difficult. So what I tell my patient usually is, if you are smoking 3 sticks of cigarettes a day, try to cut it down to at least 1, then 2, then 3 before contemplating getting pregnant. The next one is we should avoid alcohol and street drugs. And this substance abuse is very prevalent now in Liberia. It's becoming, it's on the rise. In fact, one of my friends from Sierra Leone was saying they have something on the Kush epidemic. So you see a lot of people now taking street drugs. Maybe it's due to the stress. People need to de-stress. But the message here is, if you want to optimize your fertility, your chances of getting pregnant in the future, you should avoid alcohol or street drugs. And if you are already on alcohol, you need to make a plan to reduce the intake of alcohol at least 6 months before contemplating pregnancy. And that is something that we always tell our patients. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, we say infertility affects men and women equally. That is something that we all should appreciate. The next intervention to optimize your fertility is you need to limit caffeine, which is in coffee, because most of us, like me, since I became family health director, I'm so stressed, I find myself reaching out every now and then to take a cup of cappuccino, but that is not a good practice, okay? So it's like the alcohol in the cigarettes. So if you are taking like 2-3 cups of coffee a day, you need to limit the intake to at least 1 cup of coffee a day. And that is something that we stress on. So before getting pregnant, you need to limit it. And if you don't know how to do it, you need to ask your doctor, okay, for guidance on how you can limit, or some of the interventions that you will use to limit the caffeine intake. Next slide, please. And then we keep saying it, and I like to repeat each slide that says infertility is not a stigma. You are more than a mother, and you are more than a father. So this is something that I always like to say in all of my presentation. They say repetition is very good because it's good for learning. So avoid, again, environmental toxin. I can only emphasize the effect of stress, okay, on infertility. I mean, it's just a direct link. It's something that I experience with my patients, and it's something that we should also try to create awareness on, especially in case where there is no new cause of infertility in that female or in a male. You have done all of the tests and everything is okay, and then you don't know why. I think most of the reasons why we diagnose undiagnosed infertility, that is infertility with no identifiable cause or causes, most of the cause is due to stress. So in that case, I just start counseling on stress. That's what I do. I give the supplements, but I just concentrate on advising them on how to reduce stress, and most time it works. It has never failed me. So we need, as media people, to create awareness on how to create awareness about the link okay, between stress and infertility is very important. It's something that keeps coming up. Okay, next slide, please. Now, raising awareness about male infertility. Again, I'm grateful to Merck Foundation for the exposure, the training. When I came back, went back home to Monrovia, I opened the first reproductive health pharmacy, and there I had consultation most often with males. And it was then and there that I realized that male infertility is actually on the increase. I don't know about other countries, but for Liberia, we have seen a steady rise, okay, of male infertility, and it's something that I'm happy that we are here to create awareness about. Next slide, please. And there are a few facts, okay? So everything we are saying here is to break the stigma around infertility in Africa. We are starting with awareness. Second, Merck Foundation is training fertility specialists, and then they are reaching out to the media. They are also reaching out to the communities. So all of these efforts, interventions are actually aimed at breaking the stigma around infertility. It's working, even though it's still something of a problem. But I think the more we talk about it, the more people get to accept that we are more than mothers and men are more than fathers. So men are core to reproduction. It's something that we need to accept. However, the neglected fact is men can also be core to infertility problems, and that is for sure. Most often, people think that women contribute more to conception than men. No, it's equal. The percent is equal, and men does not have less proportion in terms of contributing to fertility than women. Okay, so this is something we need to accept. Once we accept this together, we can create a culture shift, and that is what we are doing now. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, so this is some of these are something that I already finished. I've spoken about. Infertility don't just affect women, they also affect men. In fact, about half of the cases of infertility, okay, are due to male-associated factors. Okay, that is, male contribute to the reason why the female is not getting pregnant. And we should know that. So next slide. And it's also important to support your wife, and that's why most of the counseling, I invite the male and the female. At the first counseling, I never counsel only the female. I always invite the male. It's very important because sometimes when you talk to the woman alone and she's going to talk to her husband, he thinks that, oh, that is you and your doctor. No, I always say this is our thing, including you. So I'm your doctor and I'm your wife's doctor. So I'm doctor to both the male and the female, because together you are in this journey. So most often I don't counsel women alone. I always counsel them in the presence, even if they are not married, in the presence of their male partner, because the message here is this is a shared journey. You are in this journey together. So some of the reasons why male will suffer from infertility, let me just talk briefly. We have the anatomical, which is the physical defects. It can be acquired, like infection, congenital, something that was inherited through genetics from your parents or whatever. It can also be due to blockage, which is almost the same as acquired. we have physiological, which is like field production hormones. Sometimes they don't produce the testosterone that will lead, or the LH and the FSH. That's the hormones that are responsible, is follicle stimulating hormone for people who don't know the FSH. And then the LH is the luteinizing hormone. So those are key hormones that are critical in producing sperm. Sometimes the failure to produce those hormones will lead to the failure to produce sperm and will lead to infertility. We also have environmental influences. We talk about them: excessive temperature, radiation, drugs, alcohol, use of drugs, industrial toxins. All of those things contribute equally to male infertility. Dietary factors and weight also contribute to infertility. I counsel male for this. One thing I tell the men is, do you know the reason why your testicles are between your legs? Do you know? The reason why the testicle descends right before delivery in males is because of the temperature. When you are in the womb, the testicles usually is within the abdomen, is intra-abdominal. But because of the increased temperature, nature has it that it will descend into the sac. So avoid wearing tight pants, long back rides, hot baths for men. All of those things that will increase the temperature around the testicles will lead to infertility. Next slide, please. So again, those are all we have. I think it's almost the end. So for men, what we preach, what we advocate, what we create awareness about is, when you are keeping healthy, is a combination, okay, of a lot of things that I have already named. You need to avoid some. You need to also encourage some, like healthy eating and exercise, avoid smoking. Those are things that you need to embrace. And then the others you need to avoid, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so again, it's a shared journey. These are all the same for the women, for the females, so I don't want to keep repeating. However, I will just highlight the shared message. For men, always remember that infertility affects both men and women equally. And then once your spouse has been diagnosed, or you are having problem with conception, remember that that journey is a shared journey. Okay, so you need to equally participate with your wife or your partner. Next slide, please. Next slide. So again, I was just talking about the temperature, so I don't want to repeat. The high temperature, and taking hot bath, riding back long distances. These are things for men you need to avoid. Okay, is something that was not mentioned as some of the causes of female infertility, because it does not really affect females to the extent to which it affects men. So that's something I always like to highlight, in addition to avoiding environmental toxin, to smoking, to high caffeine intake. Temperature, avoiding high temperature is very important for male if you want to optimize your fertility. Next slide. So again, these are all take-home message. I just like to take all the take-home message. It's a shared journey. Males and females are equally affected when it comes to infertility, and together we are stronger. Okay, so we need to, bind together. I can overemphasize the effect of regular exercising in optimizing infertility. We should avoid environmental toxin. Climate change now is becoming a serious issue. It's something that is bordering on health. There are a lot of toxins. Some cities around the world have very high pollutants in the sky, something that people inhale on a regular basis that might lead to infertility. So it's something that we need to advocate and avoid. Next slide, please. Again, balanced diet, I've already said it. Obesity can affect the testosterone production, which might lead to underproduction of the sperm. So it's very important that we reduce in terms of weight and maintain a healthy weight balance by eating healthy food and taking regular exercise in moderation. Again, fertility is not a stigma. Always remember that. Next slide, please. So key take-home messages. Next slide, please. Fertility, again, is not a stigma. This one, I can't get tired saying it. It affects men and women equally. Next. Most important to breaking stigma is to get informed. We should support our wives if you are a male. Fertility is a shared journey. We have said it. It takes both men and women to have a child. Always remember that. Men are more than a father, and women are more than mothers. That is more important. Next slide. Break the stigma around infertility in Africa. We have several hashtags. No to infertility, more than a mother, more than a father, hashtag men too. Create a cultural shift for both women and men. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I'm a bit exhausted, but hopefully I was able to provide some key awareness when it comes to infertility. It's always a pleasure, always. Thank you, Merck Foundation.
Thank you, Dr. Novia.
Yeah.
We have been waiting for your session only. We know that you have been traveling. It was really indeed an insightful session. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Daliri Dennis, Medical Director at the Presbyterian Psychiatric Hospital, Ghana, and also a Merck Foundation alumni. He will discuss about the influence of infertility, stigma, and other social issues like GBV, child marriage, and FGM on women and couples, and also how the media can inspire the community empathy and positive social stories. Over to you, Dr. Daliri.
Very well. Yeah, thank you, Doc, for the opportunity. Yes, like you said, rightly said, I'm Dr. Daliri Dennis from Ghana. I work in a psychiatric hospital. Can my slides be projected, please? Very well, that's fine. All right. All right, so without much ado, just like Doc rightly said, the previous presenter rightly said, infertility is generally defined as not being able to get pregnant or conceive after 1 year or longer of unprotected sexual intercourse, you know. According to the WHO, around 17.5% of adult population, or roughly 1 in 6 people globally, experience infertility. This basically tells us that it's a common phenomenon, and so probably no need for the stigma at all, because it's all over. It's all over the world, you know. Studies from Gambia in Africa showed that infertility was about 14.3% in Gambia in one institutional-based study. And then they found, like Doctor said, there are primary and secondary causes. It found 33.9% of infertility to be as a result of primary causes, and then 59.1% being secondary causes. Factors that contribute to infertility in men and women include smoking, and I think Doctor has mentioned this already, excessive alcohol intake, obesity, and then various lifestyle choices, so like the caffeine intake and all. Studies also have shown that tubal factor, which is also 17.4%, contribute 17.4%, and male 8.9, ovulatory factors 13.4, and then unexplained, some actually are unexplained, about 10%. Again, like Dr. Riley said, infertility is not something that should, if you like, ignite stigma at all, because it's all over us. There's no point for stigma. However, our society will have it. It's one of the most highly stigmatized situations women go through. Basically, because there's a high societal pressure for children within marriages, which often results in social stigma for infertile couples. They are more likely to face depression and be and typically so because in our societies we have a general belief that marriage is equivalent to having children. And so in a situation where a couple is married and then they are not having children, it makes it like, you know, the real purpose of the marriage has not been achieved. And because of that, the stigma then sets in. In Ghana, I mean, in most communities actually, within a year after a couple is said to be married, the next question is she pregnant? Is she pregnant? And so, you know, that alone is the beginning of stress for the woman or for the married woman. And if it continues, then, you know, depression would set in and all the other consequences like I've enumerated. Infertile women may feel a sense of shame, guilt, and embarrassment, and they may be subjected to social isolation, discrimination, and violence. Typically so, especially in some religious settings, you would realize that because it is the equivalent, marriage is equivalent to giving birth or childbirth, you'd see that if a woman marries and within, let's say, from 6 months onwards, she's not conceiving, then she begins to feel shy. She begins to withdraw from other colleagues because then she would have heard information where almost all her other colleagues who probably got married are either pregnant or are already having children, especially at a certain age. So it becomes a basis where women begin to feel bad. And now once they begin to feel this way, or even prior to they feeling this way, you have in-laws, mother-in-law, father-in-law, and co coming in and start asking you questions. This then leads to the shame, the guilt, embarrassment. And unfortunately, society has already thrown that tag on women to say that men cannot be infertile, but women. Men cannot be infertile, but women. I saw a patient way back who, it was a woman who came to me, apparently had 3 children in a previous marriage, which which broke up. And so she's married to this new man who doesn't have any child at all. And the woman was relatively older than the man. So because the family were not in agreement with the relationship already, I think 2 years down the line, she hadn't conceived. So they said it was because she was too old and it was because she didn't love the man. That's why she wasn't conceiving for him. So as if to say the woman was the one with an issue. Nobody even remembered the fact that she already has 3 children elsewhere. So the woman came, I encountered her, she gave her a complaint. I said, fair, let your husband do just seminal fluid analysis and bring. When she brought it, actually the man was azoospermic. So he being azoospermic, but his family was attacking and accusing the woman of having probably secondary infertility. I mean, in this case, it's actually primary infertility anyway, because the couple have not conceived or ever had any chance of a pregnancy, you know. Then it has been reported that women with infertility in, most countries, especially in our African setting, are confronted with financial challenges because usually the men or family wouldn't support you. They feel as if you like, you are, excuse my word, but you are worthless. because you were married into a family, you know, to give us children. You are not giving us children. So what is your use? Why should anybody even give you any support at all? So these women usually lack the support. Even sometimes support to even seek treatment is a challenge. Support to seek treatment is a challenge because all the other women who probably have been married into the family, none of them needed to go to a hospital for treatment. So how come in your case, the basic duty of a woman, you are unable to fulfill it, and you are seeking financial support? So a lot of them go into financial challenges, you know. Then the social stigma, like I've said, walking around town, everybody is asking you questions, aren't you going to give birth? And especially if you were somebody, your environment or your community already has some perception about, then they will say probably it's because the woman has aborted, you know, so many times. That is the reason why her womb, you know, and then superstitious beliefs about some evil forces probably tying people's wombs, you know, in quote, being the reason why they are unable to conceive. Others even accuse the women of, if you like, feeding on their own children, a reason why they are unable to conceive, you know. So all these social stigmas, sometimes even in some families, when there are family meetings, the woman cannot even appear there because they believe that she is infertile, and as if it's a curse or a crime, you know. Emotional and physical violence also erupt in such marriages. Such women actually suffer a lot of violence. You realize that sometimes the husbands ignore them. They don't really want to have anything to do with them, as if to say that just for the fact that they are unable to give birth, they are no longer women, okay? At the least provocation, probably then the physical violence will set in. So men might, attack them, you know, do all sorts of things to them, you know? And then all women who experience infertility or within situations where they are diagnosed as infertile actually have a feeling of trauma, stress, and then really depression, you know. So many women actually believe that, you know, society has managed to imbibe this mindset in women. It has conscientized women to believe that they are generally responsible as far as infertility is concerned. And so, like the typical example I gave, a woman who is already had 3 children already, but when the family was accusing her of being the one responsible for their inability to conceive, she basically had to admit it. She basically had to admit it, you know, even though the problem was basically from her husband. So women basically have come to believe and accept that they have a higher responsibility as far as infertility is concerned. And it puts them under greater psychological stress. And also it makes them face more social or severe social consequences. The stigma also associated with infertility can discourage women from seeking care, okay, leading to delayed diagnosis and treatment. And I guess the first presenter probably would testify to this. Mostly when they are coming to see you, the doctor, they come rather late. And it's all because they will lack the support, especially the financial support. And Dr. Riley said she will want to see she want to see the couple, but assuming a woman was in a polygamous home where the other women are having children already, and then you now want to go for care, and you say your husband should give you money. One, he'll refuse to give you the money because he thinks it is your problem, so you should look for your own money and fix yourself. Two, he doesn't believe he may have any issues at all because all the other women have kids. So why are you involving me in your mess? You know, so to call it. So it leaves the whole burden on the woman. They lack support, and so it makes it difficult for them to come for care, thereby leading to delayed diagnosis. And in situations where they could have been treated, the treatment is also delayed. Then I move to gender-based violence. So according to the UN, United Nations, 1 in 3 women will experience sexual or physical violence in their lifetime, making gender-based violence very common worldwide. Okay. Now, it can take many forms, including sexual, physical, mental, and economic harm. It also includes threats of violence, coercion, and manipulation. So sometimes it is not the action itself, but also even the threat of it. it's also part of the gender-based violence. Additionally, an estimated 35% of women worldwide have experienced either physical or sexual intimate partner violence. And as many as 38% of murders of women are committed by intimate partners. So the typical example is what we saw at the beginning of the presentation, where a lady unfortunately had her arms or her hands chopped off by her husband in the name of infertility. Okay, so clearly this is an example of gender-based violence. These statistics actually highlight the significant prevalence of gender-based violence, including forced marriages, and an urgent need to address this issue on a global scale. Okay. So although both men and women can experience gender-based violence, we know that the majority are actually the female gender. They are those who suffer it the most. It is quite rare, especially in an African setting, to hear that women are, if you like, those lashing out violence on their partners. But commonly, we get that of the men being the, if you like, the culprits in this situation. Prevalence of gender-based violence varies between regions and is often underreported due to social stigma and cultural norms. So women are staying in relationships, women are sitting in marriages where they are being abused by the day, physical abuse, they are hitting them, they are harming them and all. But unfortunately, they will not report. They will not report these issues. And then in the name of, well, some for religious reasons, there are times you've encountered some, you tell them, report to DOFSU in Ghana, the domestic violence unit of the Ghana Police Service. And the women tell you, no, they cannot report their husbands. Meanwhile, they are dying in the so-called relationships, you know. So this makes it very challenging. So most of them are underreported. And that's why it might look a bit silent, but it's really a big issue. Child marriage, referring to the formal marriage or informal union where one or both of the parties are under 18 years of age. So it's typically it's a human right abuse or human right violation that disproportionately affect girls. So predominantly you see a very old man, if you like, getting married to probably a 14-year-old, 15-year-old woman. And I, again, in Ghana, have encountered in some rural communities where you have a woman who tells you that, oh, she married, in fact, in her family, the very first time you get your menses or you see your menses, your menarche, then your second menses should not, you know, happen in your father's house. It should be in your husband's house. And so most of these children have been betrothed already to some children already. And then this child is betrothed to such an old man who also then takes advantage of this child, okay, in the name of marriage. So these situations, diverse effects on their health, education, and overall well-being. Imagine a 14-year-old girl obviously her whole future has been truncated. Her whole future has been truncated, you know, education, health. Now, prevalence of child marriage is a significant global issue that affects millions of children and adolescents. And I think I have, so typically, you are having this, typically women who married before age 18 much. And I think this statistics was 2020. This married before age 18, telling you how common the situation is. All right. Sorry, okay. All right. So according to the UNICEF, 120 million girls under the age of 18 are married worldwide. 120 million girls under the age of 18 are married worldwide, with 37,000 of them in industrialized countries. Even the so-called industrialized countries, so-called developed countries, have as much as 37,000 of them. In fact, other new statistics from the UNICEF actually shows that every day is about 3 girls under 18 are giving out in marriages on a daily basis. So child marriage often results in premature and forced initiation of sexual activity and childbearing, leading to higher risk of complications during pregnancy and childbirth. These children are not even psychologically prepared. Okay, they are not psychologically prepared. They probably don't even understand what all these supposed intimacy, sexual intercourse is all about. And so it's like you spring it up on them. And that because they are not psychologically prepared, you have a lot of resistance. And imagine that old man or that man, my very matured man, trying to penetrate such a small child. So that trauma, that alone is some psychological trauma you are giving her. Then the physical trauma follows, which is the attempt to penetrate, leading to a lot of bruises, a lot of scarring, a lot of bruises here and there. Then bleeding follows. Okay, so you give this child a very traumatic initiation into this particular intercourse. Now the other case where she probably gets pregnant. Now when she gets pregnant, the child is in fact it's like a child getting pregnant with a child. So that is what has happened to them now. Now the pelvis is not, matured enough to accommodate this. So during labor, a lot of deep transverse arrest could happen. This child can end up, as young as she is, can end up developing what you call vesicovaginal fistulas, because a lot of obstructed labor would easily occur in such situations, okay? PPH is very common, postpartum hemorrhage is very common in such situations, and this girl, God forbid, unfortunately might bleed to death, Even if she's able to deliver such a child out there, what is her psychological state in terms of care or upbringing of such a child? Okay, because a child who is supposed to take care of another child, even the mother herself needs to be taken care of. So additionally, it frequently interrupts girls' education, and obviously so, because at 14, this girl probably in the Ghanaian system maybe should be in junior high school. And then, this is a girl who is supposed to be in a man's house playing the role of a wife. So clearly her education has been truncated. Unfortunately for them, they might not even get the opportunity to learn any trade, any skill for themselves, and therefore become a burden on society, on the family, a burden on society and all that, Child marriage is most prevalent in the following regions. In sub-Saharan Africa, about 32% of girls are married before turning 18. In sub-Saharan Africa, probably it's one of the highest rates. I think the next one is the first one or top on the list is South Asia, where 43% of girls are married before turning 18, with 16% married before age 15, So, this is to show us the global picture of the problem so that we understand that it is a problem that really needs attention. The consequences, like I mentioned earlier, the psychological challenge, impact that it brings, educational challenges or impact, the health risk, violence. This small girl who has been betrothed to this old man or who has been married to this old man doesn't even understand whatever is happening. And so it will look like disobedience, it will look like disrespect, and therefore a lot of physical abuse, Social isolation, the girl child begin to feel, the girl who has been married begin to feel weird. They feel they feel stigmatized. They don't feel comfortable drawing closer to even their colleagues or their own age mates, and therefore leading to social isolation. For those who are a bit enlightened and probably had great prospects, they look back and then begin to ask themselves that, well, it looks like life probably has ended for them. And this makes life very difficult for them. Economic disadvantage, like I said, they will not get a chance to proceed with their education. They probably will not get a chance to also learn even a trade for themselves, clearly giving them an economic disadvantage. Doctor also, the earlier presenter, mentioned female genital mutilation as when she was talking about infertility. So typically in most of our settings, these, as you can see, these are some of the tools in the villages they use for FGM, female genital mutilation. Looking at how rusty these tools are, look at this, how blood stained they are. Clearly, you can, without me saying anything, you can clearly guess the complications this particular act is going to mount or bring on these girls, you know. So as far as FGM or female genital mutilations is concerned, there seem to be, in 2022, the UNFPA
Hi, Dr. Delaney.
All
Hello,
right.
Dr. Daleri. Yeah.
Yes, please. I'm back.
I have given you the option to get your slide options. Yeah.
Very well. That's fine. So, okay. So female genital mutilation is a traditional harmful practice that involves the partial or total removal of external genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. It is a form of human rights abuse. Female genital mutilation is prevalent in some countries in Africa, Asia, Middle East, as well as in communities in Europe, Australia, and North America. You know, 200 million, as much as 200 million girls and women alive today have undergone FGM. And in my part of the country, in Ghana, where I work, it is not common. We see a lot of women who come with who have undergone female genital mutilation. It is estimated that 3 million girls undergo this procedure yearly. In Ghana, currently, there are a lot of laws that seem to ban this barbaric act. Okay. FGM can lead to intermediate health risk, such as severe bleeding, infections, and complications during childbirth, as well as long-term physical, psychological, and sexual complications. Okay. What then can the media do in all this, right from infertility to gender-based violence, child marriages, and female genital mutilation? Especially as far as infertility is concerned, the media can help in raising awareness, discussing topics in relation to these particular situations, these particular problems in society. Okay. The media, after raising this awareness, the media can then make the population or the populace aware of the fact that these challenges and problems that people face are not situations that, if you like, they're created by themselves. By challenging the stigma. So when people raise these issues to create the impression that a woman is supposed to get pregnant, a woman is supposed to give birth, yes, but it also takes two to give birth. It takes two. It is not a one-sided affair. And so if society, if people are undergoing such stigma, it is the media can help to challenge the stigma and then ask the right questions. Okay. Then so the media can also help to promote gender equality. Because then if it takes two to get pregnant or to conceive, how then do you blame one or put the blame on one alone? The second question the media probably can also ask is also the fact that assuming the man was the one who is probably said to have, say, azoospermia, that is very low sperm count, or no sperm at all, would that same stigma have been put on the man? You know, so it tells you that there is no gender equality. It is as if someone is extremely superior compared to the other, and that is the basis for the stigma. The media can also write inspiring stories about women with infertility, just like what Merck Foundation is doing. I mean, sharing videos showing us how women are suffering this stigma, okay? Showing us how women, for no fault of theirs, have to suffer from such situations, okay? So we need to look at that also. And then the media can also give opportunity for women who have gone through these difficult situations to share their stories as a form of motivation to others, okay? And then also highlight resilience for women who are already going through these situations. Help them to develop that strength, that ability to bounce back, rather than seeing themselves as being locked up in the situation where all hope is lost. Not forgetting that the media is a voice, if you like, for the voiceless. The media is the one that shines light in every dark situation, so as to be able to open situations up for the whole world to know what is happening. I mean, like the popular adage goes, sunlight is the best form of disinfectant. Once media shines their lights over there, all these stigma, all these other things these women suffer can be brought down to the barest minimum. By so doing, the media can promote advocacy efforts. NGOs or other bodies that are interested in helping such women, the media can help their voice to be heard. And also, the media can also help to educate the community or the populace about coping strategies to help these women. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Merck Foundation, for the opportunity. I'm grateful.
Thank you, Dr. Daleri. And now let's take a short creative break and enjoy and learn from an educational film, Sugar-Free Jude, about diabetes awareness and healthy lifestyle. My teammate, please play the video.
Merck Foundation. No more diabetes. Reverse diabetes. Goodbye diabetes.
It's morning rush time to school, and Jude is about to take a big bite into his breakfast on the go. Jude loves donuts, especially sugar-coated ones.
I love the taste of sugar on my donuts. It makes my morning sweet with this juice combination.
Jude, don't you think your eating habits are too unhealthy? I am worried about the rate at which you consume sugar products.
James, relax. I can't wait to eat my lunch. More donuts? There's nothing to worry about.
Jude was not bothered about James' concern. He went on eating more sweet foods day after day. As the days passed by, Jude started noticing something quite unusual.
My goodness, not again.
Jude would wake up several times at night to wee. It was so uncomfortable. Not only that, but he also noticed that he would wake up very thirsty. Jude would need to drink water multiple times during the day as well as night, and this also meant using the washroom several times.
Oh my god, this is so destructive and shameful.
is it? This appears to be the third time you woke up to use the bathroom. You even look a bit fat. Very unusual.
I have no idea, ma'am. And I've been feeling very thirsty lately as well. And sometimes tired.
We need to see the doctor to make sure all is well with you.
I agree, ma'am. It disrupts my day at school too much.
At the clinic, Dr. Yobo decides to conduct a few tests to confirm his diagnosis about Jude. He opts to do a blood glucose test to check Jude's blood sugar level.
So according to the results, you have type 2 diabetes.
Type 2 what?
Diabetes is a condition wherein the blood sugar level in your body becomes too high. In type 2 diabetes, there is insulin resistance or relative deficiency of insulin that results in excessive blood sugar, which in turn can lead to other health problems. In short, type 2 diabetes is a metabolic condition in which the body's insulin is either ineffective or relatively insufficient to deal with the blood glucose levels.
Dr. Yobo continued to explain to Jude about his condition.
The exact cause of diabetes is not known, but genetics, family history of diabetes, and an unhealthy lifestyle seem to be the most common and important causative factors.
What happens if diabetes is not well controlled?
The long-term complications of diabetes can include the following: stroke, blindness, heart disease, kidney failure, sexual dysfunction, and amputation. Type 2 diabetes is a chronic condition in which there is bodily resistance to the insulin produced by the pancreas, and it typically manifests in adolescents.
Thank you. Up next, we have Dr. Daik Chinedu Michael from the Department of Family Medicine, Niger Foundation Hospital, Nigeria. He will talk about how the media can effectively report on diabetes and hypertension and promote prevention and early detection in communities. Dr. Daik, over to you.
Yes, hello, good afternoon or good day, everyone. Yes, greetings from Nigeria. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Very good. So it's always good to be here to present in this Merck platform. I too, as you know, I'm also a Merck Foundation alumni. And so I'll be presenting the topic, promoting a healthy lifestyle and raising awareness about prevention and early detection of diabetes and hypertension. So very good. So welcome, and let's hope that we enjoy this brief presentation. Okay, next slide. So this is the topic as I've earlier mentioned, and then we'll focus on how to report about it to the community. So promoting a healthy lifestyle, raising awareness about prevention, and early detection of diabetes and hypertension. So we'll focus on these two key aspects, diabetes and hypertension. Next slide. So now, non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases, this is a broad term. So this refers to conditions that tend to be chronic. So they are chronic conditions, which means that they occur over a long period of time and are a result of a combination of both genetic, physiological, environmental, and behavioral factors. So they all come together to cause non-communicable diseases. Among the list of the very many non-communicable diseases that we have, there is cardiovascular disease like hypertension, heart attack, stroke. There is diabetes, and there are some cancers. And then you also have chronic respiratory diseases such as asthma, which we are quite familiar with. And also there's also what we call the COPD, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So all these are non-communicable diseases, and they tend to occur over a long period of time, long duration, require long-term management and follow-up. And so for the purpose of this presentation, we'll focus on two of them, hypertension and diabetes. Now, these NCDs for short, or if you like, non-communicable diseases, they're leading cause of deaths worldwide. As a matter of fact, they affect those of us in the low and middle income countries. So for example, my country, Nigeria, is a middle income country, or a lower middle income country. South Africa is an upper middle income country according to World Bank classification. And there are many low income countries you find in Africa. And the studies have shown that about 3/4 of deaths from non-communicable diseases occur in low and middle income countries. So they occur in Africa. About 32 million deaths occur in these LMIC countries. Next slide. So this infographic here shows us the common non-communicable diseases. So the first is high blood pressure, what we know as hypertension. And then there's diabetes and heart disease, heart attack or stroke, which I'm sure everybody in this presentation may know someone who has had a stroke or who currently has a stroke. And then the chronic respiratory diseases include things like asthma. So asthma is quite common, okay? And then as one goes older, there's a tendency to have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is also a chronic respiratory disease. In these diseases, you have inflammation in the lungs. So the lung tissues tend to the cells there are inflamed. So there's a lot of response, excessive, exaggerated response that has its own deleterious or dangerous consequences. And then there's cancer, very many cancers. They're all chronic diseases. Next slide, please. So now let's look at diabetes. So diabetes is a metabolic disease that is characterized by elevated blood glucose, what we call hyperglycemia. So in diabetes, the hallmark is that there is elevated blood glucose. Okay, and then there's also deficiencies in carbohydrates, protein, and fat metabolism, which means that how the body metabolizes the nutrients, there's a bit of a change. There's some deficiencies here and there. So this is usually due to deficiencies in a hormone called insulin. So that the insulin production is suboptimal, or insulin is being produced and then the body cannot respond to it as it should, or maybe a combination of both. Now, this leads to a variety of conditions that affect the heart, blood vessels, eyes, kidneys, and nerves. So diabetes is there, it's chronic, it's affects around the world, several millions of people are diabetic. In Africa too, the figures are alarming. And in the common symptoms there, you have excessive thirst, what you call polydipsia, excessive appetite, what we call polyphagia, and excessive urination, which is called polyuria. So like you saw in that video a few minutes ago, that young chap suddenly started urinating a lot. They had frequent urination, and of course began to lose weight. And then of course there's a lot of hunger. So you have these classical features. Typically you see them in what we call type 1 diabetes, because type 2 diabetes tends to occur in a more subtle manner. Okay, and then people tend to be on the big side, as overweight compared to type 1 diabetes. But then you see these features in both types. But this is classical for the type 1 diabetes, and I'll explain that in subsequent slides. And then there's a feature of weight loss. So a common feature, the fellow tells you that, oh, I've had to adjust my belt hole. So I'm tightening my belts every time. So my belt hole is here, and I have to tighten, or maybe I have to make more holes so that it can fit, because it's now becoming too loose. And then there are vision changes, so blurring of vision. You find that in diabetes with weakness. So when someone is losing so much of, he's urinating a lot, he's eating too much, he's always thirsty, there's tendency to also have fatigue. Next slide, please. So this infographic here shows us how to know one has diabetes. So the first picture here, it shows a fellow that is drinking water, excessive thirst. And then underneath, you see a fellow that is tired, excessive tiredness or fatigue. And then you see this picture of a hot. The fellow is going around in circles, He's always going to go and urinate. Excessive urination, it can be troubling. So you also have what they call urinary frequency and nocturia. So nocturia is when there's increased urination at night. So when a fellow says that, oh, doctor, I wake up more than 3 times at night for my sleep to go and urinate and come back, that is the excessive urination at nighttime. So that's what they call nocturia. So you find that in diabetes. Because of this, a lot of sugar in the bloodstream, sugar has a way of pulling water with it. So the kidney's threshold to absorb water is lowered. And so a lot of water is being pushed out because of the sugar that is there through the kidneys and out through the person's urethra so the blood gets filled up quickly and the person has to urinate often. So that happens when the blood sugar level is very high, as happens in type 2, in diabetes generally. And then with the diabetes, it also has a way of, the high blood glucose has a way of impairing wound healing. So you have slow healing wounds. So That's why you see people who are diabetic and they have some ulcers on their legs, maybe some injuries on their legs. They may not even realize they have the injury. And the injury, if they don't manage it well, it takes a long time to heal compared to those who don't have diabetes. And so if it's not healing well, it can easily get infected and the injury worsens, it extends, and then begins to spread and then damages the tissues, and then the cells die, and then you talk about amputation. We'll have to cut off this limb. So that happens with poor, slow healing wounds. Okay. Then there's also tingling feet and hands. So tingling, numbness, what we call paresthesia. Paresthesia is a normal sensation, which includes numbness, tingling sensation that one can feel. Typically, in diabetes, when it is poorly controlled, it affects the nerves and causes that problem. So they said it happens in a stocking and glove pattern. Stocking and glove means that, so you put your stockings on your feet and the gloves on the palms. So it affects the feet. So you can see this picture at the center here of someone's feet, feeling this tingling sensation. And also affects the palms as well. And when that happens on the feet, the person doesn't feel as he should. So that fellow, if he's walking on bare feet, can step on maybe a sharp object, a broken piece of glass, and he would not feel it. But there's an injury there. He won't feel the injury. And then the injury is there, it keeps getting worse, getting infected, and he doesn't know. So that pain that we would experience, he may not feel the pain from that injury. So pain is good because it makes us realize that something is wrong and we have to address it. But once you can't feel that pain, you don't even know there's a problem. And then therefore, you don't even see anything to address. And that thing is there, it lingers and it worsens, and you have complications. So the next here is constant hunger, which I've explained, and then sudden weight loss, which I tried to explain when I said that the fellow has to tighten his belt because of he's shrinking at the waist, if you pardon the expression. So he's getting smaller, he's losing weight. And then blurred vision. Next slide, please. So this is diabetes. So these are the three main types of diabetes: type 1, type 2, and pregnancy-related, or what we call gestational diabetes. So type 1 diabetes is early onset. Typically, it occurs in children. So that's when they start. So these people may present at the pediatric clinic, or they come as children, less than 10 adolescents typically. And then they notice what happens is that, so the hormone responsible for diabetes is insulin. So in these children, these body cells that produce insulin are destroyed. So there are some cells in the body that go and attack the insulin producing cells and destroys them. So it's a self-destruction, which they call autoimmune condition. And so once these cells are destroyed, the body can't produce insulin anymore. So they are gone. So the cells producing insulin are no more. So it's not insulin anymore. So these people are deficient of insulin. That's type 1 diabetes. Typically occurs earlier onset, so adolescents typically, or younger. And then there's type 2 diabetes, late onset, usually above 40 years of age. In this case, there's insulin being produced, but then it's not enough, okay? So in that sense, and then there's more resistance. So typically, these people are overweight or obese on the big side. And then because of obesity, so that excess fat or excess adiposity, excess fat tissues causes insulin resistance. So when there's so much fat itself causes resistance to insulin, so that the body produces insulin, but then the fat doesn't allow the insulin to work. So there's a resistance to the produced insulin. So the insulin is not carrying out its work. So that now causes diabetes. And that's type 2 diabetes. So seen more in the overweight and obese people. And it's usually late onset or adult onset. And the third one is gestational diabetes. It's usually occurs during pregnancy. So usually you make the diagnosis when the woman was normal in her first trimester, and maybe after 20 weeks gestation, she started having issues with sugar control. You begin to suspect, okay, this could be gestational diabetes. And there's a lot of screening for it. It's also common in our environment. And I've seen a couple of cases in my own practice. Next slide, please. Well, there's a new classification of diabetes, but then it's still being commented on. So they were still awaiting clear guidelines on it, which was just launched a few months ago. So that will be out of the scope of this presentation. So for this presentation, suffices to know this type 1, type 2, and pregnancy related. So now, what are the risk factors for type 2 diabetes, which is the most common? Keep in mind that type 1 diabetes accounts for about 10% of cases of diabetes globally, while type 2 accounts for over 90% of cases of diabetes. So it is the commonest form. So if you know anybody with diabetes, it's very likely what he or she has is type 2 diabetes. So the risk factors include a family history. Now, this is non-modifiable. If your father or mother had type 2 diabetes, it's likely that you get it. You are at increased risk. And it doesn't mean that it's not automatic, but you are at increased risk. Then age above 45 years, another risk factor. Ethnicity is common among Hispanics. The Hispanic ethnic group tend to have it more. Okay. And then physical inactivity. So we're encouraged to live active lives. So being sedentary, or especially nowadays with this westernization, people tend to enter cars. You know, in the days of old, our forefathers, our grandfathers, they used to walk long distances from their house to the farm, or from the house to the river to go and fish or to fetch water. Nowadays, we open a tap, the water is flowing. We don't have to trek so long now. Okay, and then also we have cars to drive us to work. So in that sense, we can have a sedentary or a life with reduced physical activity. With white-collar jobs, the so-called 9-to-5 jobs, we sit down in the office from morning till night, okay? And then we don't walk around. Afterwards, we leave the office, we enter into the elevator, takes us downstairs. From the elevator, we enter into our cars, and then we drive to our house. From our house, we enter into our house car park, we enter into our buildings, and then we want to sit down or lie down on the bed. So there's reduced activity. That's a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. Now, being overweight or obese, I explained this before. Excess weight, that excess fat, causes insulin resistance, which puts us at risk for type 2 diabetes. High blood pressure also has been associated with type 2 diabetes. High cholesterol, the same. And then smoking. So smoking has been shown to disturb glucose balance in the body. So there's a certain level, so it's called glucose homeostasis or glucose balance. Smoking has been shown to distort that balance, resulting in elevated blood glucose levels, which predisposes to type 2 diabetes. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next slide talks about diabetes complications. So diabetes complications can be divided into two main categories. The first is a microvascular, or you say small vessel complication. And the second is the macrovascular, or big or large vessel complication. So diabetes affecting the small blood vessels in the body. There are three main subtypes. One, diabetic eye disease or diabetic retinopathy. Two, diabetic kidney disease or diabetic nephropathy. And three, diabetic nerve disease or diabetic neuropathy. So diabetic eye disease, diabetic kidney disease, and diabetic nerve disease. So diabetic eye disease or retinopathy typically manifests with refractive errors. Okay, so the refraction of the eyes is not, it becomes distorted. Cataracts, so diabetes causes cataracts, and also been shown to be linked to glaucoma, which are sight-threatening conditions. Now, diabetic kidney disease. Diabetes is a leading cause of end-stage renal failure globally, resulting in a need for dialysis and eventually kidney transplants. Typically, it manifests with the failure because typically, once we take in protein, we eat proteinous foods, egg, beans, meat, beef, they contain protein. The body has a way of retaining protein. Typically, doesn't excrete the proteins out. But still, with diabetes, the kidneys start passing out protein. So it starts with a microalbuminuria, or leaking out very small albumin, which is a type of protein, to full-blown proteinuria, that's full-blown passage of urine of proteins in urine. So, and then eventually there's a kidney damage, resulting in dialysis. Dialysis is so expensive. In my country, it costs a lot of, it's several dollars to do a dialysis. So it's about 40,000 naira. So if you do a equivalent of dividing by 1,500 to give, you see that it's more than it's about, let's see, it's something less than $50, about $40 thereabouts. But that's a lot to do that 2 or 3 times a week. That would be a lot. It's really expensive. And then there's amputation, which I explained to the call from diabetic nerve damage. If the person doesn't feel very well what is happening and he has an injury, he doesn't know, is poorly treated. And then, of course, the injury with a high blood glucose, that wound will be slow to heal. So if the sugar is not controlled, the wound will slowly heal. And then once there's a lot of sugar in the blood, the injury itself will have a lot of sugar there, which will attract bacteria. they'll come and they enjoy because there's a lot of glucose. So they will gather there, multiply, and further worsen the injury. So damaging it, causing tissue death that we call necrosis. The tissue dies off, becomes gangrenous, and there's a need for amputation. So I've explained on the right side, my right hand of the screen. Now, let's look at the large vessel complications. So you have stroke, which is a cerebrovascular, which is when it affects the blood vessels in the brain. So there is a vascular accident affecting the blood vessels in the brain, resulting in either impairment in blood flow, okay, which is an ischemic stroke, or maybe there's a rupture of a vessel, which will now cause a bleeding type of stroke. Then there's a heart disease. Of course, diabetes affects the heart. That has been well documented in studies. And then one that is very key also, which is linked to the first two presentations we had, is sexual dysfunction. So diabetes in a man particularly can cause erectile dysfunction when it's not well managed. So a man can become infertile from diabetes. So this is why we need to pay attention to this. Next slide, please. Now, this slide shows us the nutrition, because nutrition plays an important role in management of diabetes. So this slide is in three parts. So it says one, things you can eat often. The next one is things you can eat sometimes. And the third one is what we should limit. So we should eat often oil-based salads, salad dressings, and vinaigrettes, oils, and vinegar, okay? So we should also take oils like canola, olive, sunflower, trans fat-free spreads. Then avocado is also very good for us. Seeds, peanuts, almond butter. Now, sometimes you can take low creamy salad dressings. However, we should limit full fat creamy salad dressings, okay? Like ranch or blue cheese, okay? So the full creamy one tend to have a lot of cholesterol, and this can result in increased adiposity, or increased fat deposits in the body, ultimately resulting in insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. So this is from the American Diabetes Association. Next slide, please. So how do we prevent? So this is where my field is very important. So I'm a family physician, and we do a lot with prevention. So prevention of type 2 diabetes, well, type 1 diabetes is autoimmune. Well, there's not so much you can do to prevent it. It occurs, there's no clear reason why it happens. But then for type 2 diabetes, you can prevent it with a healthy body weight. So what is recommended? So a body mass index of less than 25 kilogram per meter square. That is when you compute your weight and your height together as a formula for it. Weight in kilogram divided by height in the square of the height in meters. That's your BMI. So it should be less than 25 kilograms per meter square. So a healthy body weight is recommended. Be physically active, okay? So avoid sedentary lifestyle. So what is recommended for the general population is an active life is said to be 150 minutes of physical activity, of moderate intensity physical activity in a week. So 150 minutes a week. So if you break it down, we say 30 minutes of brisk walking for 5 days a week. So 30 times 5, that's 150 minutes. So that is an active life. So if you do that, we are living actively and we are preventing type 2 diabetes, also hypertension. Then a healthy diet. So we talk about some things. A plant-predominant eating pattern. And avoid tobacco use. Of course, limit alcohol consumption as well. So this is a way to prevent it. Well, there's something about lifestyle medicine. I'll summarize this when I talk about prevention for hypertension and towards the end of this presentation. So I'll give a mnemonic to see how we can prevent these conditions. So healthy body weight, being physically active, healthy diet, avoiding tobacco use. Take very important note of these points. Next slide, please. So now we move to hypertension. And I like, you can see this slide, what is highlighted in red, it says the silent killer. Now, one of my consultants, my teachers, was saying that he went to do a medical outreach to his village, and he was just checking their blood pressures. He noticed that so many of the grandfathers in the village had markedly elevated blood pressure of about 200 to 190 millimeters of mercury, and they were moving about their activities like nothing was wrong. So these grandfathers were hypertensive and were asymptomatic. Now, the blood pressures they had were so high that they could have a stroke from it. They are so high that they could suddenly have a rupture of a blood vessel in the brain and bleed in the brain and die. but they're moving around like nothing happened. Why? They never checked. They're not going. They had very poor or almost zero healthcare seeking behavior. So that's why it's called a silent killer. So you cannot know you're hypertensive most time until you check your blood pressure. So hypertension is diagnosed if and when measured on 2 different days, you have a blood pressure of greater than 140 millimeters of mercury over 190 meters of mercury on different days, so on 2 days. So it's greater than 140 over greater than 90 meters of mercury. That's hypertension. Okay, so this is the gold standard used, at least in Africa. This is what we use, and even WHO uses this cutoff point for their awareness and even for their record keeping. This is what they use for global surveys. So this is a condition in which the blood vessels have persistently raised blood pressure. Okay, and it's a leading factor for cardiovascular disease. Next slide, please. So what are the risk factors for diabetes? So there are for hypertension, there are 2 main risk factors, modifiable and non-modifiable. Modifiable means that you can do something about it to change it. Non-modifiable means that, well, it's there, nothing you can do. These are factors that you can't change. You know, in life, there are things you can change, there are things you cannot change. Things you cannot change, the non-modifiable include a family history. So if your dad is hypertensive, you can't change that. Sorry, he's already hypertensive. If you're above 65 years of age, you can't turn back the hands of time. So yeah, at increased risk for diabetes, for hypertension. And then the coexisting diseases such as diabetes or kidney disease is a risk factor for hypertension. Now, what are the modifiable risk factors? The things you can change. You can always change our diets. So unhealthy diets can be changed. Physical inactivity can be changed. If you decide to be more active, you can always reduce your consumption of alcohol and tobacco. You can also work on your weight. So these are the risk factors for hypertension. Next slide, please. So a person with high blood pressure, usually they are asymptomatic. Now this means that they don't show any signs. So there's nothing, you cannot see, it doesn't manifest externally. So measuring the blood pressure is the only way to diagnose hypertension. So the take-home message from this slide is that we should encourage people to check their blood pressure. So once anybody, at least once any adult, once the person is an adult above 18, you can start checking the blood pressure once in a while. Okay, check your blood pressure. Check your blood pressure. That's the way to diagnose it. Now, when symptoms occur, which may happen sometimes, maybe you have early morning headaches, nose bleeding or epistaxis. So the times when someone has a nosebleed, the BP is high. So if you control the blood pressure, the nosebleed stops. It works like that. Of course, always see a doctor. Irregular heart readings, vision change, the person comes and says, oh, everything is blurry. So that can also be seen in hypertension. Then there's a ringing sensation in the ears, the buzzing in the ears, seen in high blood pressure. Now, when the blood pressure is so high, severely high, there's fatigue, there's nausea, the sensation of wanting to vomit. There's vomiting, there's confusion, there's anxiety, chest pain, and muscle tremors. These are the symptoms of when you have symptoms. When hypertension manifests, usually there's an end organ damage, possibly, and then something may be going wrong definitively, or there could be some irreversible damage depending on the extent. Next slide, please. So the complications of diabetes, of hypertension. Don't mind me, I'm a diabetes expert, so that's why I tend to refer to it. The hypertension complications includes vascular complications, or you say complications that affect the blood vessels. You could have stroke, which is what they call a cerebrovascular accident. That means an accident in the blood vessels in the brain. Simply put, it could cause a heart attack. It could cause kidney damage. So hypertension is also a leading cause of kidney damage. You know, in my own practice, we have a dialysis center, and many of the patients that come there are now on a maintenance dialysis, maybe 2 or 3 times weekly dialysis. They are mostly hypertensive. So hypertension has caused their kidney damage, and now they're on dialysis to give them sustenance. Without it, they can't make urine. Okay, so I have many patients like that. So hypertension is a leading cause of kidney damage, and also leading cause of people needing to have kidney transplants. It's hypertension. Next slide, please. So how can we prevent hypertension? So it says you can prevent it by lowering you can prevent it, you can prevent hypertension by lowering your sugar, your salt intake. So salt intake should be less than 5 grams a day. So one thing to note is that we blacks, we are salt sensitive. So African people tend to be salt sensitive in the sense that we react to small amount of salt. This amount of salt will result in us having elevated blood pressure. So that's what's peculiar to blacks. So we have to watch out our salts. Then also eat fruits and vegetables, regularly. So I avoid saturated and trans fats. Avoid that. Avoid tobacco, cigarette smoking. They tend to raise the blood pressure. Reduce alcohol intake. Reduce alcohol intake. Be physically active. I've talked about avoiding a sedentary lifestyle. It's things we could do. Next slide, please. So to control hypertension, things we can do, follow medical advice, so adhere to lifestyle changes, take your drug as prescribed, check your blood pressure regularly, reduce and manage stress. These are the very key things. So now this moves me to what I want to talk about is lifestyle measures to control both hypertension and diabetes. So there's a field of medicine called lifestyle medicine. And lifestyle medicine looks at some approaches, you see, modifying one's lifestyle to improve his health. So now there are 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. One of them is called the first is diets. So a whole grain plant predominant eating pattern. That's the diet, D. Then the next is R, restorative sleep. So we're advised to sleep for 8 hours at the minimum, human beings. That's ideal. So we have to see how we can, at least on weekdays, catch 6.5 to 8 hours on weekdays. Definitely on weekends, make sure you do 8 hours or more. So weekdays, because of you can be busy with work and work deadlines, 8 hours may seem too utopian, but then at least we should do 6.5 hours. And then on weekends, we catch up. So restorative sleep. The next is E, exercise and physical activity. So physical activity is important to control both hypertension and diabetes. And I explained that 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, such as brisk walking. So if you do 30 minutes a day of brisk walking for 5 days a week, you have an active life. Then the next is also avoidance of risky substances like tobacco and alcohol. Avoid risky substances. Then there's M, which is management of stress. And there's the last one is S, which is social connections that are positive. So maintain good social connections. So that's called positive social connections. So I've run through a mnemonic, DREAMS, dreams. So the dreams mnemonic is very helpful. D for diet, healthy diet, R for restorative sleep, E for exercise, A for avoidance of risky substances, M for management of stress, and then S for social connections positive or social connection. Avoid try to keep your connections with your friends, your colleagues positive. Avoid negative energy. So that's a mnemonic for lifestyle medicine. It's very effective for both hypertension and diabetes management. Next slide, please. So now we come towards the end of this presentation. We look at the role of media, So the mass media provides a very important link between the rural residents and vital health information. I'll tell you something. Last year, I had a similar presentation like this on the Merck platform. And afterwards, I was contacted by one of the journalists from Liberia to deliver a similar presentation to the Liberian audience. So this platform of Merck is very, very useful, informing journalists. And I had to educate the Liberian audience about the role of how you can prevent hypertension and diabetes last year, following this initiative of Merck. So it is also good that so the media plays a very vital role. Without them, I won't be able to communicate to a wider audience, So they have the gift of communication, which is very essential. The goal of information is transformation. So when you have the right information, the lives of people can be transformed for the better, So we have a way of removing ignorance by providing quality health information which the media, you all the media play a very vital role in. So health workers can expand their reach through the media, as the journalist from Liberia helped me to do. So the media plays a key role in educating the public sector or the public about health concerns. Also responsibility for providing accurate health and science information to the public. Very, very important. So it's very vital. It cannot be overemphasized. Now, they also, I've also belonged to a platform where I provide health information relating to mental health, for example, on Instagram. Okay, so that is still media, that's social media. Okay, so there's a mainstream media, there's social media, there's print media. There's also the way of disseminating through posters and handbills. All these are forms of communication. So it's very essential to get the message to the grassroots. You can move from the knowledge from the doctors who have the knowledge or their healthcare workers to those who need it most. So this role of media cannot be overemphasized. So I'm very grateful to Merck Foundation for this platform and for this training, which I believe is doing a great impact to people in Africa and all around the world. Next slide, please. So the media can be used at many levels of audience organizations, such as individual, network, organizational, and societal levels. Very, very true. So now there are many programs. So Merck now has done a documentary on diabetes, one we saw before this slide, before this my presentation, and that's a cartoon sort of, and it can appeal to children, to adolescents. So with the gift of communication, which you media experts, the journalists have, you're able to present information in a way that the person who needs it can understand it. So from a doctor, I can talk about it in medical jargons, but then you can help simplify that message so that an adolescent boy can understand it. A mama in the village who has very little formal education can understand it, or an elder professor can also understand the message. So across different kinds of people from different backgrounds, the media plays a role in transmitting the information to meeting people at a point of need. And this is very, very vital. And then also health promotion, disease prevention. Oh, fantastic work the media does. So the goal is to enhance a state of well-being, to guard healthy and population at risk. So this is the key thing, what I love Merck Foundation for, and then the attention to the media, the Merck Media Awards, all of this pushing the role of the media. This is fantastic, and I'm very, very much happy with Merck Foundation for this. So having said all of this, I think I've come to the end of my presentation, and thank you very much for listening. So I also want to appreciate the media experts, the journalists here who are paying attention. I trust you also help in disseminating this message to a wider audience. Thank you, Merck Foundation. Thank you all for following. Yes, thank you so much, everyone. And with this, I say, I put an end to my presentation. All right.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dyke.
Yes, please.
Now it's time to hear from our media experts. Let's welcome Mr. Achike, National Secretary of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, who will speak about the media's role in reaching grassroots communities and raising awareness on infertility stigma, girls' education, GBV, child marriage, and FGM. Over to you, Mr. Achike. You are on mute, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much. Like you have said, speaking on the role of the media, reaching out to communities and of a grassroots level and raising awareness on health and social issues. It's been an interesting discussion so far, and I think I enjoyed myself. The educative nature of the intervention from the doctors have been quite good. And I believe that even my journalist friends are also watching that are on this platform, because it is what they learn that from discussions such as this that they're expected to write on. So they are being informed in the process. But before I even start with this, let me just say that I'm quite happy with what the Merck Foundation has been doing. I have not exactly interacted directly with them, but I know that my organization did one or two things with them last year. And perhaps before them, before I came on board at the NUJ. So it's kudos to them, for their spirit of, philanthropy therapy, and the resources they have to spend to try to save lives and make lives easier for people. And again, to the first ladies, it's also good that they are collaborating with first ladies across the continent. And I think these are the people that they actually need to talk to, and I'm glad that they're also engaging. But before I move, I go on, the picture, I think the first video that was played, I think I keep on going back to that. Very, very unfortunate. I think there is a psychiatrist, I think the second doctor that spoke from Ghana is a psychiatrist too. So perhaps we'll be able to find out exactly what led to that, because I want to believe that the horrific attack on his wife was perhaps a secondary issue. The primary issue that led to that must be some psychiatric issues, because it's a terrible thing to do to a fellow human being, no matter the circumstance. And I hope that the authorities, did something about that. That's the only way they can bring justice to the woman. Such things must be discouraged at every level. Then, obviously, I have seen the order in the presentation. I have seen the order in the presentation, and that is the fact that I have to speak last, obviously, and I think that it makes a lot of sense. Let the experts talk about the issues, and then we are the ones that are supposed to talk about what the experts have said. We have been informed, we have been educated. Now we also have to go out there, in the public space to talk about it, and then to tell people, because it is like when you light a lamp and then you put it, in the bush, it's of no use. So you have to shine that light. And I think one of the presenters have talked about it. The need to shine the light, and that at this level is our responsibility. So talking about the media, again, I want to shorten this because I know it's been a long discussion. Talking about that, the media obviously there are various means of communication, and of course that's what the media refers to. And in fact, there's one word that we use when we talk about mass media, because of the ability of the media to reach out to vast numbers of people at the same time. In our traditional times, we used to have such things where you have the village drummer beating the drum, and everybody in the night, they know that there is an issue, is passing a message. It's a form of mass media. So, but we need to also, in the modern times now, you have different types of media. Of course, you talk about the traditional media, which started before the rise of the internet, which included print media, newspapers, magazines, books, and brochures, and all that. Then, of course, the second one is the main one, the digital media. This includes media that uses digital technology, primarily the internet. And so, of course, on the internet, now we are talking about all manners of, websites, blogs, online news platforms, social media, and all that. Facebook, Netflix, almost everybody is on the internet. It's important that we talk about this because they all have different uses, especially with what we are trying to do. Some of the issues that Merck has been involved in, the issues of infertility that has been talked about, supporting child girl, the girl child in education, child marriages, the FGM, the GBVs, the issues
Mr.
of
Achike.
diabetes. These are
Mr. Achike,
yes,
sorry,
yes, I can hear you.
Mr. Achike, can you hear me now? Sorry to interrupt
I can hear you.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I can hear you.
Manoj, can you hear me?
I can hear
Yes,
you.
Mr. Achike, we have your slide here. If you want to go through your slide, you have to tell next, so we can go through your slide then.
Sorry, you have my slide. Okay, fine. So it's okay.
Yeah, you have to tell me next. Sorry. Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear
You have
me?
to tell me next. Yes.
Okay, good.
Tell
So
me
I don't
next,
know
so I can go ahead.
Okay, good. I don't know where you lost me, but I was just talking about the various types of media. Of course, digital media, we're talking traditional media, and
yes.
Okay, good. Traditional media, and then can you go on with the slide? Go on with the slide. Go on with the slide, please. Okay. Gone again. And then we also have outdoor media, advertising and all that. So now when we look at the role of the media is a very, very essential in whatever we do in society. And in Nigeria, the importance of the media has been given credence to by the fact that it is the only body, outside of the other arms of government that is giving constitutional provision, because it is critical to the survival of a democracy. In fact, people have often said that, if you want to understand the barometer, of the politics in a country, you must also understand how well the media is thriving in that country, and so that's the importance of media. Now, but there's one thing that the media does, and that is what makes the media very, very important today. Everything that we're doing, even right now, is the media that is projecting it. We have journalists on this platform. We have doctors on this platform, and perhaps members of the civil society on the platform from different parts of the country, discussing some of the issues that are on the table, at this particular point in time. So what it means is that the media has reach. But beyond that, can you go on with the slide, please? Good. Media and agenda setting. Again, continue. Now, there is an issue with, one of the things that the media does is that the media sets an agenda. And that is very critical to what we are doing today. The media sets agenda, even for the politicians. And how does the media set agenda? And when an agenda is set, it gives direction to what a government does, to what members of civil society do, and so many other things. So, the media sets an agenda by talking and concentrating on specific issues or particular issues at every point in time. When they do that, over time, it remains, whatever the media is discussing remains ingrained in the minds of the people. And so the politicians and policymakers, it's important because at that time, politicians and policymakers now have an idea about the issues that matter in the society. And so when you are talking about, for instance, look at the issue of Ebola. Ebola was given credence to by the media. So any disease, any health issue in a country, whether it's a pandemic, epidemic, or whatever it is the role of the media, or it is the media that informs the public about the dangers of these diseases, and on the basis of the constant, concentration on the issue, it gives the politicians that impetus for them to realize that these are the things that are important to the society. These are the things that we need to weigh in on. And that is the importance of the media. Go on, please. Good, thank you. Now, we have seen the importance of the internet at this particular point in time. For a very long time, the traditional media dominated the space. You're talking about, like I said, the television, the newspapers, and all that. But society is constantly in evolution, because society is constantly moving. And so we're in the age of internet, where it appears that, again, not that it appears, where social media, the internet has taken the world by storm. And so you have all manners of things going on the internet. You have people who are even qualified, and people who are unqualified when it comes to the use of the internet. And you also have influencers also who find themselves in a position to influence what people think and what governments think. So there is this constant, movement towards a particular direction between the traditional media and the social media. But once in a while, there is a clash, because those that are on social media do not have the requisite training and ability, for instance, to sift through what is going on with the society, in the society, and to be able to write accurately, on what is going on, because they do not have that reputation, that training that the usual traditional or the journalist has. A journalist is not just a journalist. A journalist has a peculiar kind of training. So when he looks at a story, you know, there are things that he sees that the untrained journalist does not see. But now, so what is happening is that when you have different people on the social media platform, you have those who might have good intention, but who do not know how to pass the messages as, you know, the way they should be passed. What it means is that you must have people with the requisite training also operating at that, you know, level, also on social media. And that's why, and then there is this connection between the social media, you know, and even the traditional media. Sometimes traditional media tends to take the things that you know, matter, the things that are being discussed on social media, and to bring it to their own platform. Once in a while, social media also takes things from the traditional media and also talk about it. And once they put it there, then it is something that everybody begins to talk about. Go on with the slide, please. Good. So the media sets an agenda through a cognitive process that is known as accessibility. And accessibility implies the frequency, that the more frequently you write on a story, the more prominent that story makes, you know, in news coverage, significantly influences the accessibility of specific issues within the memory of the people. So when you are talking about, for instance, everybody is talking about a particular issue in any country, it's an issue that is trending, you know, that remains in the consciousness of the people. And so it is important, for instance, when the Russia-Ukraine war started, when Ebola started, you know, COVID and all that, you can see that it was constantly, these things were constantly in the minds of the people. And why were they in the minds of the people? Because the media understood their responsibility, especially when it comes to health-related issues. They understood that they needed to inform the public because the public was in danger of the negative effects of this pandemic or epidemic that is happening. And they did a wonderful job, especially for instance, with regards to COVID, with regards to Ebola. The reaction that of governments across the world, you know, was as a result of the wonderful work that the media was able to do. You know, and that's why I say, and that prompted the policymakers, that prompted even the medical health practitioners to give it the kind of prominence and importance that it took, because the media stayed on the story completely. So go on, please. The slide. Okay. Now there are people, because of the nature of the presence of the media, because of their ubiquitous nature, they seem to be everywhere, depending on the particular issues. So there are some people, communication experts and researchers, that have come to the conclusion that the media may not tell people what to think, but that do tell the people, you know, what to think about. You know, and again, there's a way you look at it. They do not tell the people what to think, but they tell the people what to think about. That tells you, that gives you an idea of the enormous powers that the media has. It can shape people's minds. It can shape the minds of government. And so when you now have a media, for instance, on some of the issues that we are talking about, supporting girl child education, the issue of women empowerment, child marriage, FGM, GBV, we know that, I mean, in fairness to the media too, that over the years, a lot of attention have been brought on some of these issues. You're talking about, you know, gender-based violence. Everybody's talking about gender-based violence today. It is because of the media. Many countries in the world today have now come up, or members of many countries, especially the parliaments in the, you know, many countries, democratic countries, have come up with laws, specific laws, to curb the issue of gender-based violence. They have come up with law, for instance, to ban female genital mutilation in many parts of their communities and all that. This has been as a result of the influence of the media. Go on, please. Yes. So the evidence, like I said, is evidence abounds about the enormous influence, you know, that the media, whether traditional or social, influence they have on the political policymakers and politicians and all that. And it is very good. because that means that you can actually move them, even when they give you the impression that that they are the ones that are in control, but you can influence them, and put them in a position that they have no choice than to, come out or to enact certain laws, to ban certain unhealthy activities as regards, some things that are going on in the society, such as some of the issues we have talked about, GBV, FGM and the rest. That is the power of the media. Go on, please. Yes, we've talked about agenda diffusion, and how some of these things play on the internet, from the traditional media to the internet, and there's discussion in those places, and then from the internet, back to the social media, everybody is talking about the same thing, and that makes the political leaders and policy office, policymakers to realize that issues of female genital mutilation is important, issues of gender-based violence is important. And we've seen instances in Nigeria, recently, one of our foremost gospel singers, I think, was beaten to death or died, recently, very popular musician. And obviously, when the investigation started, it was discovered that she had been a victim of constant wife battering by the husband. And it became a serious issue because the media concentrated so much on it that the National Assembly was forced to, have a special sitting, for that particular issue. The husband has just been sentenced to death by a court in Nigeria a few days ago. So that also tells you about the power of the media. Go on, please. Okay. So in as much as we know that sometimes even the politicians themselves and policymakers and legislators, deliberately seek out what you call the trending things. For instance, if you look at, if you go to Twitter or X, you will see, those things that people are hooking onto. You may be pending or trending, and then people want to go there. They want to see what is happening, and then sometimes even governmental decisions are made even on the basis of what is happening in that space. Go on, please. So some of the successes that women have had in the past, if you don't forget where women are coming from, a lot still needs to be done, but a lot has been done. So we must also commend ourselves generally, that the girl child and the woman today is in a much better place because of the consistent highlighting of the injustices that are being faced by women and the marginalization that are being faced by women in our society today. I think the media has also played a part in impacting in that direction. Continue, please. Continue, please. Yeah. Okay, go on. Again, go on. Good. Now, continue, please. Now, I have talked about the media in general, talking about the various, types of media that we have and their functions and the importance of each other and the influence that the media has on the policymakers and the political class. Even though, to a very large extent, the political class might not like them, but they have no choice than it's an evil that they have to live with. Because the primary responsibility of the media is to hold the governments accountable, and we have talked about the linkage between democracy, and the media. If you have a functioning media that is relatively free, it has been discovered that in such a country, you realize that their democracy is relatively free. And once you have a democracy that is relatively free, then some of these issues that we are discussing today are things that within that democracy, the government would be able to, talk about and do something about. Now, part of the importance of, with some of my doctor colleagues have talked about the importance of the media, raising awareness and educating the public. So that's the platform. And then again, but media, when they are talking about health, it's important that I make this point. The media, average media journalist might not be a doctor. He might not be a medical practitioner, but he has certain tools, that has been impacted in him, which it allows him to work in virtually almost every area of endeavor. Has to be a doctor, for instance, a medical practitioner, but he has a duty to be informed and to ensure that he's informed about what is going on, even in the healthcare sector. And that's why you have those that are on this platform today that are also listening, and I'm hoping that they're also taking note about what all of the issues we've talked about involve, so that they can go there and also inform the public. So in order for them to inform the public, they have to be informed themselves. And that is what they are doing, and that's what they must do. Because you cannot teach what you do not know about. And in order to know, you have to learn. And the way you now learn, you now use a bigger platform to be able to reach so many people at the same time. Hear me? Okay, good. So go on, please. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Good. So the media also promotes health literacy. It empowers individuals to understand health information. I just talked about that, and make informed decisions about their well-being. Because we see this, there are all manners of programs that we see, in the media space. And they are all, some of these programs can be in the form of even stage plays, plays on radio, advertisement or adverts on radio, and so many talk discussions where they bring in experts and ask questions, and then also bring members of the public, get them involved in issues related to health. And that also helps the public to get involved. And in doing that, they have different ways of doing it. They make topics under normal circumstances that will seem technical. They make it look so easy, and even for the ordinary person to listen to and understand, because they're able to break down the barriers of technicality and just make the misinformed, or there was this myth, and I think some of the doctors have talked about it, that if there is infertility, if a couple cannot have children within a marriage, then the woman is at fault. Now that is a myth, and that myth has been debunked, by today's level of health care practice. It has absolutely been debunked, and then the media has also helped in carrying out this debunked information and putting it in the public space, so that more people today now understand that it is the synergy between the man and the woman that leads to the conception of a child, and that the mistake is not usually or not necessarily the issue of, the problem of the man. Then another one again is the issue of, what do you call it? This SSS. I think my colleagues there understand SSS, children, I'll try and remember what it is obviously. But, in those days, this issue of Obanje and Abiku, if you understand Obanje, as articulated in the poem by, I think it was Gabriel Okara, and later in some other African writers, where parents lose their children. I mean, you have a number of children every 3-4 months, they are dying. I think it's later that modern medicine discovered that this thing had nothing to do with superstition or whatever, but that it had to do with the genotype. I think that's where I was going, the genotype. So that is one other myth that has been debunked, at a time. And now people can make more informed decision about who to marry based on the genotype of the partners. Go on, please. Go on, please. Okay. So in this wise, the media influences attitudes and behaviors of people. And, so through consistent messaging and framing, the media can influence public opinion and attitude towards various social issues. So it is when the media is able to influence the vast number of citizens that governments, act or intervene, knowing that, again, don't also forget that the politicians also pander to, public interest issues, and so they also realize that at the level of the political terrain, that they have to act in ways that are in conformity with the interests of the public. So when the media is able to set that agenda and the people are able to run with that agenda, it has a way on impacting, on the ability of the politicians to respond to some of these issues, and then they also motivate action. When you have a media campaign that is well crafted, it can encourage individuals and communities to adopt healthier behaviors, seek preventive care, and participate in addressing social problems. And we see that, a lot during pandemic, during the COVID and all that, when certain issues, come up, the way the media is able to craft the message, and pass this message to communities, also help communities in adopting actions, that help those communities move in a particular direction. Then the media can also help to promote positive role models. And we see that even on social media, we see some organizations, once in a while, they pick up certain people, influencers and role models, people that are expected to shape public opinion and to change the mindsets of the citizens. These are this is also what the media does. And you cannot bring a role model and hide him somewhere in the dark. You bring that role model and project that role model through the media, through the agency of the media, so that people will be able to see and be able to learn from, especially the younger generation, because these are people that are essentially in need of role models. And so when you have these role models, they can only be projected through the instrumentality of the media. Go on, please. Yes. And then, of course, public discourse. And we have that happening all over the community. And not too long ago, I happened to work with a community somewhere in the southeast, I think somewhere in the Ebonyi state. And I think they were talking about some of these, female, this girl child issues, issues of disability and all that, and it was something they did that was very, very interesting. They brought in, community heads. They brought in women. There was a particular issue that had to do with the place of the widow in the society, as well as the disabled. And so they brought in traditional rulers and so many other people. How were they going to get this thing to project it in the public space? It was the media. So they had to bring in the media, because it would have been a waste of time, to have about 500, 300 people in a room discussing, and then that discussion ends there. So immediately that happened, the media was brought in to be able to give voice and to project what had gone on in that particular location. Then holding power accountable. Yes, this has to do with investigative journalism. Remember that I had said that that the primary one of the primary responsibilities of the media has a duty to educate, inform, entertain, all of that. But implicit in that is the primary responsibility and role of the media all over. The primary responsibility of the media is to hold political leaders accountable, to hold government accountable. Because when they are able to hold government accountable, there's more accountability in government, there's probity in government, then government is able to come up with policies that work for the welfare and benefit of the citizens, especially when it comes to some of the social issues that we're talking about. So, and that is where investigative journalism comes in, because investigative journalism goes to the heart of critical, particular issues to unearth things that have been hidden, and sometimes at great risk to the journalists, because we have had, we know what is happening to journalists. A lot of people today are not comfortable, especially the powers that be, are not comfortable with the role of journalists. So sometimes some of these activities of journalists to build society ends up being contributing to their demise. Many have been killed, many have been incarcerated, many have been jailed just for the sake of doing their job. So investigative journalism is one way to hold political leaders accountable and, of course, to amplify voices. Okay, then go on, please. Go on, please. Yes, so we've talked about building online communities. That we have seen that that helps also. And then the issue of stigmas, the stigma that we used to, that normally characterized some of these issues, before, like the FGM, GBV, and all of those things. The media has been able to do a lot to prove that a lot of these things that women are being accused of have nothing to do with them, and that sometimes, like the issue of infertility, that it is it can go either way, it can go both ways, and that the woman has nothing, absolutely to do with it. And so the myths and the stigmas that have characterized some of these social issues have been broken down by these things over the years, and that has now reduced the stigma to a very, manageable level. Go on. Yes, okay, we've already talked about that. The tools that the media uses in carrying all these things, about social media, entertainment media, which incorporates social and health themes into television shows, movies, and other forms of entertainment to reach wider audiences. And so it's also important to talk about this. When you see some movies, there are meanings, there is a message that a lot of these movies, drama that you see on TV, soap operas, there's a message. Any credible movie that is shown today, must have a message, and it must be a message of redemption. It must be a message that is aimed at, helping to make the society better. Thank you. Go on. Okay, good. So I think I have essentially come to the end. I'm just about 2 pages away, but I deliberately put the word caveats. Caveats means warnings. In as much as we have talked about the importance of the media in so many ways, we have also, in life, as they say, what gives life can also kill. If you buy a car today, for instance, that car is useful and is meant to achieve, certain good, transportation and the rest. But if it is used carelessly, it can kill, and so many things. And so, in a way, the media, there's a lot of advantage when you talk about the media today and all the good that the media does. But we also know that those who operate the media are human beings. And so as much as you have people who understand the direction and the aims and objectives of a good media, it must have a positive impact in society. But we also see that there are people who also use it for certain selfish means, sometimes to destabilize, sometimes to cause problems, sometimes to deliberately distort, the correct narration that is out there. And that's why the journalists also have a task, that even if people, the wrong kind of people, go on the internet and social media to post nonsense and cause disinformation, the media organizations, even including members of the traditional media organizations, and those journalists, practiced and experienced journalists who are also social media savvy, must go on that space, on those spaces, because there's a war, there's a battle that has to be fought on those social media spaces to also give the right narrative, and to change the misinformation and disinformation that is going on there, and to give the right information to the people. So Therefore, responsible and ethical media practices are crucial for effectively addressing social and health issues. That's why you talk about the ethics of the profession. The media operates on a set of principles, rules, guidelines, ethics, and so they are not just because a journalist does not allow you to act in ways that are contrary to the ethics of the profession. And that is why, if you notice, the way the media is described, they are called one beautiful there's a beautiful expression that describes the job of the media. They call them the men of the noble profession. And actually, it is a very, very noble profession. Continue. Go on, please. Yeah. Then, yes, again, it's important, but I needed to make this point. No. Before we go back, just one slide. Good, thank you. Yes, like I said, there's still a lot that needs to be done when it comes to the issue of the girl child. A lot of achievements have been made, and we are grateful to everybody who have played key roles. The medical professions, the media, civil society, government officials, policymakers, they have all worked together to ensure that the story, the narrative with regards to the girl child, is changing, has changed and continues to change. And it's important. But again, I needed to make this point too. And that is the fact that as we strive to continue to improve on the situation of the girl child, there is this fear that the society is also losing on the issue of the boy child. And it is important because people are not talking about it enough. Today, a large majority, in fact, in virtually every country of the world, the rate of young boys, the boy child and his enrollment into schools, either at the primary, secondary, or university level, continues to drop, while that of the girl child continues to go up. And it is important. That's an achievement. But what I'm trying to say is that we don't want to achieve something, and then in the process of having achieved that, we realize that we need to go back because we have left something behind. So I think that we should spare a thought also for the condition of the boy child, in today's world. Go on. Yeah. Yes, this favorite saying of Chinua Achebe, it's important. I think it's one of my favorite saying. Of course, we all know Chinua Achebe, one of Africa's greatest writers. We have so many from all parts of the continent, literary giants. He said that until the lion can have its own historian, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Why am I saying this? Africa continues to lag behind in so many things. The level of, when you talk about global productivity, Africa contributes between 2 to 3% of global production. And so if Africa does not, up the game, if Africa does not come into its own with the vast array of resources that we have, we will continue to be left behind. So you find out today that, for instance, at the level of, global healthcare, Africa and African physicians and doctors and all that have to continually rely on the narrative that comes from the West, about how, to take care of our, maybe our health conditions and the kind of drugs that we need to take and so on. I think that there should be more synergy between Africans, African medical practitioners and, other people, across the globe, and so that we can make the kind of impact that we are supposed to make. Go on. I think it's the last. Go on, please. The very last. So I want to thank seriously the Merck Foundation for this very wonderful program, and I want to, like I said, kudos to them, and that they should continue to do that because society can only benefit from what they are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Achike. There was a lot to learn from your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me now invite our final speaker for today, Mr. Alhaji Manika Kamara, National Secretary General of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists. He will address how media can be a creative and honest tool to address sensitive and critical social and health issues every day. Over to you, Mr. Kamara. Mr. Alhaji, are you there?
He is online, but I guess he's attending to some emergency. So we'll wait for 2 minutes for him. In the meantime, can you please try calling him?
Sure, sure.
Already. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Alhaji.
Yes, are you getting me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good day, distinguished colleagues, partners from Merck Foundation, and fellow journalists. It's a great pleasure to join you today on behalf of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, SLAJ. I bring you warm greetings from the President and the Executive. I've listened attentively to the previous speakers, and particularly my elder brother who just spoke, to lead the foundation and explain exactly the role of the media in such a situation. I listened to the very first presenter, the doctor, who spoke about stigmatization and how most times in Africa, traditions and culture, most times push the blame to our female colleagues when it comes to infertility. That's reminding me about an article I read, the secret lives of Baba Shegi's wife, wherein an old man got married to 4 ladies, and 3 of the ladies gave birth to children, which are actually not the children of the old man. Fortunately for the 4th wife, hello?
Hello. Mr. Alhaji, you have the slide control option. I have given it to you. You can control your slides.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, let me just conclude this. Fortunately for the 4th wife, she was educated and she knew exactly what is happening around her. And then she decided to do a test, a medical test, to ascertain whether she is the one with the problem or the husband. And she disclosed everything that the husband is indeed infertile. So this topic is very much important today and educative for us, the journalists who are carrier of the information, who gives out the information to members of the public. There is no way we can give out what we don't know. So this training is very important for us journalists. I'll call on all journalists who are following this program to pay keen attention and to make good use of the opportunity. So my topic here today, how can media be a creative and honest tool to address sensitive, critical, social and health issues on a daily basis? Next slide, please. Okay. For us in Sierra Leone, health is not just a medical issue. It's deeply a social, political, economic, and human rights issue. From maternal mortality, pregnancy, from malaria to mental health, the challenges are many and often deeply rooted. In 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, a radio station and journalist in Kenema, a community radio at the eastern province of Sierra Leone, did something that is powerful, something that's changed the entire narrative. The journalist during the pandemic, most people were receiving fake information through social media. So the journalist, what he did was to interview a survivor. He engaged the survivor who explained the lifetime experience about the pandemic, how he was able to overcome the pandemic. So the program changed the mindsets because it was honest and it was local, because the survivor explained exactly his own ordeal about the virus. So that changed the perception of the people in that particular community. We cannot afford to sensationalize or politicize health issues. Honesty means using verified facts. As journalists, we should rely on the facts that we've checked, double-checked, to make sure that they are correct, and they are factual. Okay. Next slide, please. I'm getting some internet problem here. Next slide, please. Okay, the second aspect of my presentation is creativity. Creativity means making the unseen seen. This is where the journalists played a very vital role. Some of our colleagues are already doing this because, like I said earlier, during the COVID pandemic, we engaged in so many community activities. We set up some WhatsApp series wherein health messages are being disseminated to people in the community, including women's group. We have TikTok channels wherein we communicate information to members of the public using one of our widely spoken language, which is the Creole. We also have this community people who tell stories on local radio, community radio stations, because we have these community radio stations wherein the journalists communicate to the people using their local dialects. In Sierra Leone, we have about 16 tribes, so each district has its own local language, but the most widely understood one is the Creole. So we engage each community radio stations, managers, and journalists to sensitize the people. These are some of the creative ways we use to change the narrative. And also the next, oh God, the internet. Are you getting me? Hello?
Yes, Mr. Alavi.
Okay. The third step, the third things that we as a media professional should do is partnering for impact. We cannot do this alone. We must work with health professionals, CSOs, religious people, and traditional leaders. For us in Sierra Leone, we are religious tolerant. We have two main religions in Sierra Leone. We have the Christianity and the Muslim. So most times the media houses, when we have such a pandemic or when we have any situation, we partner with most stakeholders, the community radio stations, the CSOs, the religious leaders, because they also have a larger audiences to change the narrative. One example is partnership with the SLAG, UNFPA, and local radio stations to report on adolescent sexual and reproductive health. That campaign helped reduce stigma and encourage girls to seek help. Because once the community are aware of these ideas, they are aware of what is going on, and they build their confidence, they can come out openly and overcome what they are going through. The partnership between SLAG and the European Union and the Ministry of Health in the fight against COVID-19, that collaboration helped a lot in awareness raising during when we have the Ebola in 2014 and to 2017-18. SLAG, we launched the campaign. That yellow ribbon campaign changed the entire narrative of the information going out. People are now focusing to the information coming from the SLAG channel. We established a radio series wherein we invited experts from the Ministry of Health, WHO, UNFPA, and other sectors. We do invite them to come and explain about the pandemic. They explain the do's and the don'ts how people should go about all those things. So these are also things that we as journalists should be doing. So we must deepen such collaboration to ensure that we do not only inform, but also empower and inspire changes in society. Once we give out the accurate information to members of the public, there will be definitely change towards the fight against misinformation. Currently, as I speak, we have an outbreak in Sierra Leone, the Mpox, that is affecting Sierra Leoneans cut across. Every day, the infection rate increases on a daily basis. At least we have at least 40 per day, which is a concern. So the media is also playing its role in sensitizing members of the public. We have few journalists that have also contacted the disease. They are also using their experience to explain to other journalists in our WhatsApp forum their experiences, what they are going through, how to prevent, and the measures they should take as a start before going to the hospital. Next slide, please. Next. Oh.
Point number 4,
Hello?
Manoj, please. Manoj, please, point number 4.
Hello?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It has been double clicked where I am also controlling the slide and he also. Wait, let me just put it to point number 4.
Yeah. Okay. The media roles in accountability. When health facilities run out of essential drugs, when pregnant women are turned away, when corruption diverts medical supplies, we must report it. But we must do so responsibly, ensuring that our stories are balanced and based on facts. This is how we earn public trust, and that is how we hold the system accountable. Because as media practitioners, we should be seen giving out the accurate information to members of the public, particularly on health-related issues. Once we give out the accurate information, we invite the experts to come and explain exactly about such situation. Members of the public will increase their trust on the media. They will shy away from listening to misinformation and disinformation. For us in Sierra Leone, we introduced the iVerified platform in 2023, a platform that we use to counter dis and misinformation. That platform has helped a lot. Now we have the Mpox outbreak. People are visiting that platform to get accurate information. We also have some media houses that have short SMS messages using the mobile companies. For example, we have the Aoko newspaper that is using a short SMS messages sending out to members of the public on a daily basis, giving updates on the Mpox, how many cases, how many new cases, how many patients have discharged, how many are in the holding centers, how many are responding to treatment, and the numbers of total deaths. That is our role as media, to give out vital information. In conclusion, the media is not just a mirror. It must be a megaphone, an educator, and a watchdog, and a bridge. We also bridge the gap between the government and the people. We bridge the gap between government and development. We explain development to the people, and also we hold government account where necessary. We don't all the time criticize, but we also provide solution as media experts. If we collaborate effectively with the health experts, we can get a very good information channel. Information will be timely and accurate, because most times, most people will turn to social media or WhatsApp messages if they don't get accurate and timely information from the traditional media. My brother from Nigeria, while he was explaining, he explained about the different types of media. And for us in Sierra Leone, people are more focused on WhatsApp, TikTok, and Facebook to get their information. And most of the media houses now, they are also having channels on WhatsApp, they have Facebook pages, and they have TikTok pages, so that they can capture the listeners and the viewers. In the remote communities, they most times listen to the radio stations. We have what is known as the Independent Radio Network, IRN, which comprises about 60 radio stations across the country, which we are using to disseminate vital information in a timely and accurate manner. At large, we are proud to partner with Merck Foundation to build a new generation of health, a new generation of, oh my God, I'm having internet problem here, of health reporters who can tell these stories with clarity, compassion, and courage. We already have a health reporters network in Sierra Leone that is working assiduously, closely with the Ministry of Health and other health partners in combating misinformation relating to health issues. We are working on how best we can partner with them officially to make them an affiliate body of SLAG, because as it is, they just sent in the application for us to look at the application to partner with them to give them full accreditation affiliate bodies to SLAG. So this is a welcome news from Merck Foundation, partner with SLAG in working in developing a health reporters network that will work in the interest. In conclusion, I will call on all journalists to make sure that they take great opportunity of this training and make use of it. And whatever have been explained by the previous reporter, I will encourage the organizer to please share the soft copies to us so that we can share with our local journalists there and across the globe so that they can have these people to aid their understanding. I'm sorry, because now as I speak, I'm at the National Broadcaster Corporation where journalists are demonstrating on welfare issue. So I was in and out. That's why I took my time throughout this presentation. Thank you very much, and we hope to partner with Merck Foundation moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. You made some really valid points. Thank you very much. As we are running behind our schedule, every question which have been shared to us, or if there are more questions related to the sessions, please email it to us or you can WhatsApp us. We are not taking questions today as we are running out of time, as I told you. Now, we extend our heartfelt thanks to all our esteemed speakers, partners, and participants. Hope you will continue to be the voice of the voiceless. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone.